A family dinner was in full swing when the front door slammed back on its hinges. Every head turned. The paper in Pamela's hand screamed one word: eviction.
She slid this under my door. My own stepsister is throwing me out!
I think you need to explain yourself calmly, Pamela.
Melissa, what is she talking about? Did you really do this?
The air thickened. Other relatives shifted in their seats, forks forgotten.
She bought the building. She owns it now, and the first thing she does is evict family.
I'm the owner, yes. And I have my reasons.
Reasons? What possible reason could justify evicting your own stepsister?
To understand why, you'd have to rewind 14 months, back to a worn apartment building, a stepsister's wide smile, and a lease that was supposed to be a family favor but hid a quiet betrayal. 14 months earlier, Melissa Reeves arrived at a tired 4-unit apartment building, a fresh start after a bitter divorce. Her stepsister Pamela was already waiting in the foyer, jingling a set of brass keys.
Welcome home, sis! This place isn't much, but it's perfect for starting over.
Thanks, Pamela. I really appreciate you helping out a family member in need.
Melissa followed her into a small, bare unit. Pamela pressed a 1-page lease into her hand.
The rent is $500 a month. It's a family discount, so you're getting a real steal here.
A bit steep, but she needed a place quickly. It was only temporary.
She signed the papers and stacked her few moving boxes by the window. But Pamela's smile was too wide, her hug too rehearsed. The warmth felt oddly transactional.
Why did this feel less like a family favor and more like a lease you'd sign with a stranger?
Arthur's monthly dinners became a stage. Pamela, in a garish red dress, held court while Melissa nursed a single glass of wine.
I practically give that apartment away. My sister gets the family rate, and I don't even charge her for parking.
Melissa's grip on the wine glass tightened. A quick search that morning had shown her the truth.
Family rate? More like a 30% markup disguised as a favor.
At her real estate analytics job, she pulled the comps. The Elm Street corridor averaged $1,150 for a 1-bedroom. Her screen confirmed it. Every comparable unit rented for at least $350 less than what she was paying.
She's been skimming from me since day one.
That night, Melissa opened a small notebook and wrote down the differential. The first entry in a silent account.
I'll keep quiet at dinners. Let her believe I'm still the grateful divorcee with no options.
Every month, the notebook grew. So did the bitterness behind her practiced smile at the dinner table. One night, returning late from work, Melissa paused in the dim hallway. 2 units buzzed with unfamiliar voices. She stepped closer to 2B. The words rent hike and family discount my foot floated through the thin door. Back in her apartment, she reread the lease. A highlighted clause caught her eye: no subletting without prior written consent. Her corporate alert system pinged. The owner had just listed the entire 4-unit building for sale. The next morning, she stood in the hallway again. The lock on 2C clicked, and a key turned from the inside.
2 units running sublets without permission. That's a lease violation the owner can't ignore.
She circled the clause in red. If the real owner knew, Pamela's days as a landlord were numbered. She pulled up the listing again. The asking price was a stretch, but not impossible. That evening, she walked the length of that hallway with a new stride. The building would be hers.
I'll buy it. Then I'll settle the score without a single word at family dinner.
The next morning, Melissa walked into Janet's real estate office. Janet specialized in small, multi-family deals.
4 units, good bones, but the listing price is firm. You'll need a pre-approval letter fast.
I'll handle financing. Just write the offer and keep my name confidential for now.
Late that night, she logged into her brokerage account. The balance was enough for an all-cash offer. If she liquidated,
This could wipe out my cushion if the rents go wrong, but it's the only way to guarantee control.
That weekend, Pamela threw a loud party. Through the stairwell door, Melissa could hear the clinking of cheap champagne glasses.
To the best landlord on Elm Street, who else gives families such a steal?
Melissa stood in the dark hallway outside her own door, listening. The toast sealed her resolve. By midnight, she'd assembled the offer packet. Only her signature was missing.
One signature, and I go from tenant to owner. She'll never see it coming.
By Monday morning, the for sale by owner sign stood in the front yard. The listing was public, but her plan remained completely invisible.
It's finally listed. Time to make the move I've been waiting for.
Inside Janet's office, she signed the offer without hesitation. 6% above asking price, all cash.
That's a bulletproof offer. I wouldn't be surprised if you hear back by tonight.
But the call came just 2 hours later. The seller had accepted. No counter, no hesitation.
Accepted. The building is almost mine. Only 3 weeks until closing.
She drove back to the building and parked. Through the windshield, the windows seemed to wait for her.
3 weeks until closing. Then I decide what family discount really means.
That evening, at her kitchen table, she placed the signed acceptance next to her notebook of overcharges. The revenge had a deadline.
And no one in that dining room will see it coming.
The next week, a building inspector climbed a ladder in the upstairs hallway. Melissa followed, arms crossed, watching for any red flag.
No deal breakers, just minor electrical updates and a water stain that's purely cosmetic.
Then her phone buzzed. A text from Pamela. "Hey sis, can you check if the hallway light flickers? That X?"
The hallway light. She still thinks I'm just the obliging tenant, running errands for the landlord.
The seller agreed to the repairs without argument. Nothing stood between Melissa and the closing date. She answered every one of Pamela's trivial texts with a pleasantness that felt like its own quiet revenge.
10 days, and this whole building, every unit, every lease will be mine.
The inspection had cleared, the financing locked. Only a final walkthrough and a signature remained.
And Pamela still has no idea she's been renting from the person she cheated.
The countdown to closing had begun, and nobody in that building knew whose name would soon be on the deed. At the next family dinner, Pamela was practically glowing. She tapped her fork against a wine glass to get everyone's attention.
You know that little building I manage? The owner put it up for sale, and I'm thinking of snapping it up myself.
Melissa's knife paused mid-cut. She forced her face into a mask of polite surprise.
She can't be serious. She doesn't have the cash. But if she even talks to a lender, my entire plan could unravel.
That's my girl. Own the whole building. Then you can really help your sister out with the rent.
Of course. Melissa's my favorite tenant. Maybe I'll even lower her rent once I'm the owner.
Melissa excused herself to the bathroom. She locked the door, leaned against the sink, and let out a breath that was almost a laugh.
They have no clue that the deed is already in escrow with my name on it.
When she returned, Pamela was still holding court, oblivious. The dinner continued, but Melissa's eyes held a new, cool steadiness.
2 more days. 72 hours until every word Pamela says becomes legally irrelevant.
The morning of closing, Melissa arrived at Mr. Thompson's office, where the seller was already waiting.
You're about to become the owner of 1775 Elm Street. Are you ready, Ms. Reeves?
Ready?
The stack of legal documents was thick, but her signature landed on every line without hesitation, the ink drying fast. Then the seller slid the ring of brass keys across the mahogany table, and their weight felt like an ending and a beginning. Outside the building at dusk, the sky was lavender and gold. Melissa stood on the cracked sidewalk and looked up at the 4 units, the keys dangling from her fingers.
It's done. Every lease, every door, every light bulb in this building is now under my name. I'm the owner.
The streetlights flickered on, and somewhere behind one of those windows, Pamela was probably watching a reality show, completely unaware that her landlord had just changed.
14 months of silent accounting, and now the real ledger opens. The one where she owes me interest.
She didn't go back to her unit yet. For a few minutes, she simply stood there, letting the quiet victories settle into her bones as the city lights blinked on around her. That night, Melissa logged into the property management portal. The field labeled owner name was still blank. She typed her own name, clicked save, and watched the screen refresh. The change was immediate and complete.
It's official now. The system finally matches the name on the deed.
2 days later, Pamela logged into the portal to process rent payments. The owner line had changed. The old owner's name was gone. In its place, Melissa Reeves. For a long second, the name didn't compute.
That can't be right! My stepsister? She must have changed something in the system.
Her hand shook as she grabbed her phone and dialed Melissa's number. 4 rings. Voicemail. The screen lit up. Missed call and 3 texts. Pick up. Is this a joke? Call me now.
Her first call. I'll let it ring. The real talk happens when I'm ready, not when she panics.
She set the phone face down on the table, took a sip of wine, and waited. The fuse was lit. Less than an hour later, the echo of heels cut through the hallway. Pamela was coming.
Open this door, Melissa. I know you're in there!
Melissa unlatched the lock and stood in the frame, unmoving.
You bought the building? You? My broke sister who can barely afford a car?
Yes, I did. And I notice the building's finances much more clearly now that they're on my screen.
This has to be a mistake. You can't just take over like this. What do you want?
What I want is for the rent to be fair, Pamela, and for the leases to be honored as written.
Honored as written? What could she possibly mean by that?
You'll find out soon enough. For now, I suggest you go back to your unit.
Pamela stood frozen, the weight of the new reality finally settling on her shoulders. The power had shifted completely. The next morning, Melissa walked into Mr. Thompson's office with a folder of printed emails and the subletting clause highlighted twice.
14 months of overcharges and 2 units running unauthorized sublets. That's a clear case, Ms. Reeves.
He pulled up a non-renewal template and began filling in the tenant information. Unit 2B, Pamela Reeves.
60 days. After 14 months of her markup, she now gets exactly 60 days to find a new place.
The printer hummed, spitting out 2 copies of the notice. The legal language was cold but unshakable. Melissa stood, holding the page. Her eyes traced every line. Non-renewal, unauthorized subletting, 60-day notice.
This isn't about revenge. It's about stopping a thief who wore a family smile.
She tucked the notices into her bag, thanked Mr. Thompson, and stepped out into the cold afternoon air.
The hardest part won't be sliding the paper under a door. It'll be the silence from the rest of the family.
But she had already made her choice. By sundown, Pamela would know the full cost of the family discount she had invented. Late afternoon, the building was quiet. Pamela's car wasn't in its usual spot.
She's out. Perfect timing.
She knelt, the notice warm from her bag. The hallway held only the hum of an old refrigerator. Her wrist flicked, and the paper slid under the door with a whisper, kissing the tiles on the other side. Inside, it landed face up under a sliver of light. Notice of non-renewal of lease. She stood, brushed her hands, and allowed herself one quiet exhale.
Done. The 60-day clock starts now. She'll find it when she comes home.
The hallway returned to its usual quiet, but the air felt different. Something irreversible had been set in motion. She didn't look back. Whatever storm came next, she had already made her choice.
Now we see who she really is when the family finds out.
Pamela returned around 7, fumbling with her keys. The white rectangle on the floor stopped her cold.
What is this? It can't be.
Her eyes scanned the bold type. Non-renewal of lease. Then the reason, unauthorized subletting. Her breath caught.
She evicted me, my own stepsister. After everything I've done, she's dead.
Her phone was already in her hand, thumbs hammering the screen. Messages fired. You twisted snake. Evicted me? Call me now. I'm telling the whole family what you did. She didn't wait for a reply. Seconds later, her fists slammed against Melissa's door, rattling the hinges.
Open this door, Melissa. Face me like a human being.
Inside, Melissa sat in her armchair, a novel open in her lap. The muffled shouts and thumping might as well have been distant rain.
Let her wear herself out. The 60-day clock is already ticking.
By 9 o'clock, Arthur's name lit up Melissa's phone. His voice shook with a plea she had expected.
Melissa, honey, Pamela says you're evicting her. You can't do this. Your sisters.
She charged me 30% above market for 14 months, Arthur. And she was subletting 2 units illegally.
She made mistakes, but throwing her out? That's too harsh. Can't you work something else out?
Melissa's phone buzzed with the family group chat. Messages piled up. Call off the eviction, Melissa. Family over everything.
Please, sweetheart, do it for me. Your mother is beside herself. Can't you drop this?
No. I gave her a family discount she never gave me. She pays for 14 months of markup with a 60-day vacancy.
A single tear traced her cheek, but her jaw stayed locked. She wiped it away before it could reach her chin.
They'll never understand, but I'm not their punching bag anymore.
The family fell silent after that, but their silence was as condemning as their words. Melissa didn't call back. The next morning, Melissa gathered the remaining tenants in the small building lounge. Sandy, a young woman in casual clothes, sat forward with guarded curiosity.
I'm the new owner. Rents will reset to market rate. Fair for everyone. No more hidden markups or family discounts that punish.
You mean we'll finally pay what this place is actually worth? After years of Pamela's random hikes, that's a relief.
Later, at her desk, Melissa signed a new lease for her own unit, at the same market rate she'd just offered everyone else. No hypocrisy. Then she wrote a check for the overcharged differential, nearly $5,000, and addressed an envelope to Safe Harbor Domestic Violence Shelter. A note inside read, "Monthly donation to honor those who truly need a safe place. No family trickery required." The shelter stood on a quiet street, its sign welcoming. Melissa dropped the envelope in the mail chute as the morning sun broke through the clouds.
14 months of her greed, and I've turned it into someone else's lifeline. That's the only family discount that matters now.
Back at the building, the tenants had already accepted the new structure. Only one unit remained in chaos, Pamela's. The 60-day clock ticked on.
The building finally makes sense. Now I just have to survive the rest of the dominoes falling.
2 days later, Pamela hired a local lawyer. She sat in his office, arms crossed, expecting a loophole.
The subletting clause is unambiguous. Your stepsister has every right to terminate. You have no case.
The no subletting clause was circled in red, its language final as a tombstone.
There's no way I'm losing my home to her. The family will put a stop to this.
That weekend, she cornered half the family at a backyard barbecue, her voice sharp as the grilling smoke.
She's thrown me out of my own building. You have to do something. She's your daughter too, Dad.
Arthur looked away, his loyalty cracking under the weight of everything he now understood. Back in her unit, the anger shifted to something quieter. She pulled a flattened box from a corner and began folding clothes into it.
30 more days. She actually expects me to pack up my life like a stranger.
Through the window, the parked U-Haul waited. The 60-day clock had ticked past its halfway mark, and no begging had changed a single digit. The dining room still reeled from Pamela's screaming entrance. All eyes swung between the two sisters.
She evicted me. She bought the building just to throw me out. Look at this notice.
Yes, I bought it. I also saw the rent you charged me, $1,500, 30% above market, calling it a family discount. And I found the unauthorized sublets in 2B and 2C. The lease you drafted bans that, remember?
That's a lie! I only got a little extra because I managed the building. It was fair.
Then why did every comparable unit rent for $1,150? I track commercial real estate for a living. I have the comps.
She pulled out her notebook, the one that had counted every dollar of overcharge for 14 months.
The differential, nearly $5,000, I donated to a domestic violence shelter. That's the family discount you deserved.
You donated. She's been lying to us this whole time.
The table went silent. Pamela's face drained of color as the room began to fracture into whispers. The dining room erupted into a dozen overlapping arguments. Some relatives pointed at Pamela, others glared at Melissa as she calmly pulled on her coat.
Wait, Melissa. Don't leave like this. We need to talk as a family.
Not tonight, Arthur. I've said everything I needed to say.
The drive home was quiet. Streetlights slid across her windshield, and she let out a breath she'd been holding for 14 months. 2 months later, a moving truck parked in front of the building. The 60-day clock had run out. Pamela supervised from the curb, her arms crossed, as strangers carried her boxes into the truck. A week later, a letter from Safe Harbor Shelter arrived. Your monthly donation has already funded 3 safe beds. Melissa read it twice, then tucked it into the same drawer where she kept the old lease and the notebook. At the next family dinner, Pamela's chair was empty. Her name became a topic, then barely a mention. Melissa drove past the building every evening now, not as a tenant, but as the quiet owner who had rewritten the terms. Melissa parked and walked into the lobby. A small brass plaque now read, "Managed by Reeves Property." She paused, tracing her name with a fingertip before heading upstairs. The quiet felt earned. In her apartment, she sat with a cup of tea, the earlier chaos already feeling like a different life. Her phone lit up with a message from Arthur. "Dinner next Sunday? Just us, if you're ready." She typed back, "I'll be there." And for the first time in months, the reply felt easy. That Sunday, the table was set for 3. Arthur served roast chicken, and the conversation stayed on safe, gentle topics.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't see what she was doing.
Melissa met his eyes and nodded, a single tear escaping. The silence that followed wasn't hurtful. It was the beginning of something steadier. She drove home that evening under a clear sky, the building's lights warm and welcoming. For the first time, it felt like hers. Weeks turned into months. The building hummed with fair rents and new tenants who never heard the name Pamela. At work, Melissa stood by her market analysis chart, her team following her lead. The commercial real estate world respected her quiet precision. Another letter arrived from Safe Harbor, this time with a photograph. Children playing in a sunlit room. She pinned it above her desk.
14 months of her greed bought a whole year of safety for someone else. That's a return on investment no spreadsheet can measure.
On Sunday afternoons, she walked through the park near the building, watching ducks on the pond. The tightness in her shoulders had finally eased. At the next holiday gathering, the house was decorated with wreaths and laughter. Melissa stood with a glass of eggnog, watching the conversations flow. When someone asked how the building was running, she simply shrugged and said it was fine. No mention of the eviction, no bitterness. She never brought up Pamela at family events again, but when her stepsister's name surfaced, Melissa's silence was the loudest sound in the room. The building stood against the evening sky, its windows glowing like a promise kept. Inside, a woman who had once been invisible had made herself seen. And she did it not by shouting, but by buying the bricks that housed the lie and rewriting the lease in her own name. Months later, at a casual family barbecue, Pamela sat on a folding chair, her voice still sharp, but her audience non-existent.
Can you believe she still owns that building? Probably counting her money while I'm forced to rent a basement.
No one responded. The family had long since tired of her version of events. Pamela's words had become background noise, a faint echo of a conflict that no longer held power. That same evening, Melissa sat at a small dinner with Arthur. The conversation flowed easily, the weight of the past finally light.
It's good to see you smile again, sweetheart.
No more secrets. No more markup. The building pays for itself. The shelter gets its check, and I get my Sundays back.
She never brought up the eviction again. The story had been told, the truth had been laid bare, and that was enough. That evening, as dusk settled, the building stood firm against the orange sky. In one window, a light flicked on Melissa Home. The story wasn't about revenge. It was about a woman who quietly bought her own justice, brick by brick, and let the deed speak for itself.